All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone to this Tuesday morning here at CAD-1. My name is Jennifer Hoskens. I'm a technical specialist here at CAD-1. I'm joined by Denny Cox, who is also a technical specialist here at CAD-1. And we are here to talk to you about license questions that you may have about Autodesk licensing, how the different license models work, how you can get your software licensed, all of the details, any questions that you may have. Feel free to post them into the questions box, and we are here to answer your questions today. We are also joined by Stan Henney. He is our Business Development Manager here at CAD-1. Stan?
Well, you are in very capable hands here with these two, so I'm just going to let them proceed, but I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be here or not, quite frankly.
We were just talking about that too.
We welcome you, Stan. Welcome
Yes.
to the webinar.
Go ahead.
Anything that you wanted to
Bring up or
to
add?
start with?
Well, not right now. Let's just kind of get started because you've got a lot to cover today, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. All right. So welcome to our webinar again. Denny, if you want to go ahead and move on to the slide on how the GoToMeeting panel works for those of you that have never been on a webinar with us before. We've got a few details about the webinar console. There is an option, an orange button there with an arrow on it that'll minimize the console off to the side of your screen if you need your screen space back. If you are hearing us right now, go ahead and hit the raise your hand button just so that we can be sure that everyone can hear us out there. If you would raise your hand, and I do see hands going up, so that is fantastic. We are being heard. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and lower all those hands. There's a box on the webinar console there to ask your questions. So this is going to be a lot of Q&A as well as the material that we're going to cover today. So if you have questions about Autodesk licensing, feel free to post them in that box, and we will get to them as we go along. And then if you need to call in on the telephone, if you can't hear us for some reason, there's an option there to switch to the telephone, and it'll give you a number to call in for that. So that's pretty much how the webinar console works. If you have any problems, just shoot us a note in the questions box. Hopefully you can get to that. Moving on, we are here again to talk about Autodesk licensing today. So if you do you have questions, like I said, let us know. But we do have a couple things to go over before we get started, just kind of a general overview. Denny, if you want to take that away, feel free to jump right in.
Good morning. Yes, as Jennifer said, today we're here to talk about the different licensing types. There's been quite a few questions, especially as Autodesk is moving forward, changing their licensing model. And so Jennifer and I thought it would be a good idea just to do a quick webinar and just kind of cover things. So the basic license types for Autodesk licenses, all licenses are standalone and network licenses. And then there's two different types of license type, desktop and perpetual. We're going to talk about each one of these. And please feel free to ask any questions as we go. We are also a SAM partner, which is the Software Asset Management. And so the license compliance is a big thing with Autodesk, and we can help you to make sure you're compliant if that comes up in your needs. The bigger thing, the standalone licensing is where you're going to most often potentially get nailed on license compliance. So we're going to talk about when and why that might happen.
Just loved your choice of terms there, Denny. You're going to get nailed.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start with the perpetual license. A perpetual license is what you own, is a license that you own. Most of your perpetual licenses are currently on subscription. They're what you've had for years and years. If you were to let subscription lapse on a perpetual license, you still own that license, and you can continue to use that license for as long as you would like. You're alive, or your computers work with it, or whatever the case may be. So generally speaking, everything that we've done with up to about last year has been perpetual licensing. Your perpetual license are on what's called a maintenance contract, and as long as you maintain that maintenance contract, then your perpetual licenses will work as they always have. You will receive updates yearly or annually as they're released, and they're starting to release more enhancements along the way. So you'll be able to download those from your Autodesk account.
Yeah, I know for InfraWorks we had a whole new release come out in June already, and the release was, in April for the 2016. They already had a full new release out for June that just installed right over the top of it with a lot of new features in it. So the updates are definitely coming a lot faster in between. So.
And if I may, the Autodesk plan for the future is to move away from the annual releases towards more feature releases. Now, we don't know what we're going to see in 2017, if there will be another release or if that'll be the last year. But in the case of Revit, for example, they've already said there will be 4 quarterly feature release sets brought out. You'll see that more and more prevalent, which is going to actually do a lot for you, because it'll keep you from having to, it'll eliminate a lot of the saving backwards issues, saving to previous version issues as we move through this process over time. So it will be a good thing, but it'll be a little confusing at first to a lot of people.
All right, the next is a standalone license. A standalone license is a license that's developed to be installed on one computer only. The license will live on the computer it's installed on. Now, with subscription, with a maintenance subscription contract, your standalone license is allowed to be concurrently installed, meaning it can be installed in 2 locations, one of those being an office computer and one either a home computer or a laptop. The caveat on that is a single user is using one of those computers at any given time. Once both those computers are being used at the same time, that's a license compliant issue. There's a tool, a utility that's installed with a standalone license. That's called the license transfer utility, and that's what's intended to be used when you need to transfer a license. If it's a planned change, a new computer, or you have to rebuild the computer, or you're getting a new hard drive, use the license transfer utility, then transfer the license up to the cloud, do what you need to on the computer or get the new computer, and then you transfer the license back down. That keeps that activation limit to the 2 that you need or that you are allowed. Now, I'm sure that most of you have seen before when you go to install your license and you hit the activate and you get the message that says that the maximum number of activations has been issued. Let's do a quick raise of hands. How many people have seen this happen?
There's a few.
So it's true that it does happen. It doesn't mean that you cannot get another activation. It just means that your 2 have happened. Autodesk the activation is simply a counter. Once the second one's done, you're getting the message, and then you can either call, we can call, or we can request online a new activation code. And what I like to do is give Autodesk the reason that we're asking for this additional license, such as the computer crashed and we got a new computer. The IT wasn't aware that we had this tool to export a license, and so the old computer's wiped and the new one, now we need a new activation. We absolutely can get additional activation codes as long as it hasn't been abused. For instance, if you have 10 codes for a single seat, Autodesk is likely not to issue another activation code.
But it will raise a red flag pretty quickly on license compliance.
Although Autodesk says that the additional activations don't raise the eyebrow for license compliance, I'm not 100% sure that that's true. Something has to. I don't think it's just as random as they imply it is. Jennifer, do you have anything to add on this one?
And that happens all the time, so it's definitely not an unusual circumstance for your computer to crash and there's no way for you to transfer the license, that type of thing. It does happen all the time. So that's a standard case, and Autodesk is very willing to issue those new activation codes.
One thing I do actually want to say is you can run your software. So if you're on a new computer, your software will run fully functional for 30 days. But what we do want to point out is if we have to submit for an activation code so that we have a reason with the account, don't wait until your license has expired, because that's not necessarily a 5-minute turnaround. And so we want to get your license activated, especially if we know we need to make a request for the code. So let's just don't wait till the very last minute, and then that way everything will run a whole lot smoother.
Yes.
And please, same thing with trial of product. If you download a trial to use for a while or try something out, please, please, please don't wait until the last day and figure, oh, we can just turn it on for you. It causes all sorts of heartburn for your team and our team and everything else. You're going to need probably 4 to 5 days. Just remember that, to be safe.
Yes, thanks, Stan. That's a good
As with any
point.
big machine, the wheels sometimes move a little bit
That's
slowly.
right.
Okay, so the next license is a network license, and basically this is intended to be a shared license. The network license looks to the license manager, and the license manager contains the pool of licenses. So if you have a network license manager that's hosting 5 seats, 5 users can work concurrently. The 6th user will get a message that there's no license available. The network licensing, for one, it's super easy to keep control of license compliance. Basically, you can install a network license on every computer you ever walk by, and you can be within license compliance because the license manager controls the concurrent use of this. There are an entire
realm, host of
yeah. So the network license creates its own potential problems. But just so that you know, the license is intended to be shared. A lot of people are going to network licensing because it is a lot easier as far as the asset management goes. And in my experience, it either goes super smooth, the network, you walk in, you get the license, you set up the license manager, you install the license on the workstation as a network license, and everything works smooth. But when not, Jennifer and I are both here and able and willing to help resolve any network licensing issues that you might run into.
If you are considering moving to network licensing or haven't maybe upgraded in a couple years, one thing to note about Network License Manager, it does need at least either Windows 7 or 8 or Server 2008 R2 or newer to run the 2015 and 2016 License Manager. So it's not going to run on Server 2003 anymore, and it's not going to run on Windows XP anymore. So just one thing to note if you are looking at moving to that or you haven't upgraded your license manager in a couple years. The license manager is one thing you do want to upgrade every year so that it does issue your licenses for the newer versions correctly and you're able to access your software.
And if I may, I'd like to kind of cover some of the ways you go about getting the network licensing. It is a little more expensive. It ranges, depending on the product, it ranges anywhere from about $1,000 SRP to sometimes as much as $3,000 SRP, although that's fairly rare. It's usually around $1,000 to $2,000 depending on the product. It is an addition, so if you buy a new network license right from the get-go, it's going to cost you that appropriate amount more than a standalone license is. Or if you come back later and you say, now we want to network a couple of our standalone seats, again, you'll pay the network activation fee, whatever that may be, and then you'll be able to run the product as a network version. One of the nice things about network licensing is that, let's say you have a seat of AutoCAD that's networked, and you decide you want to take that to a building design suite or infrastructure design suite, something like that, and also be networked. That network license will transfer over, so you don't have to pay an additional fee for that.
So that network activation fee is a one-time fee for that seat then, correct?
If you let your subscription drop and everything, then you'll have to pay it to pick it up again. But if you keep everything in order, you only have to pay it once, which is actually pretty nice. Now, another thing I want to bring up is that at the first of the year, as many of you have heard, Autodesk is transitioning to an all subscription model or all desktop model, which Denny and Jennifer will cover in a minute. You can see it on the screen right now. but that's going to take a couple more years. As of February 1st of 2016, Autodesk will discontinue selling perpetual licenses, not desktop licenses, perpetual licenses of single seat products. So that would mean a single seat of AutoCAD or a single seat of Revit Architecture or a single seat of Civil 3D. And so you want to be aware of that if your firm tends to use that type of product and you like the perpetual license model, please get more of those before the end of January. The other thing that they are going to quit doing is selling the network version, or the network bump, as we call it, from standalone to network for those single products. So if you're thinking about networking those individual products, please, again, do that before the end of January next year. Just so everybody knows, because everybody's going to ask, well, what about suites? Well, suites are going to, perpetual licenses of suites will go away. Probably, we don't know for sure, nobody said, but everybody's kind of hinting at the first of the year in 2017. So just so everybody knows, that's kind of some of the plans there as you're doing business planning. Looks like we have a question, Jennifer.
We do. Ron has a question about how do you update LM Tools? Do you download this program from Autodesk?
Well, the LM Tools, it doesn't have to be installed. I was using finger quotes when I said that.
And just to clarify, LM Tools is the license manager that would run on your server to distribute your licenses for network licenses.
So basically, every single version, we will put the files, the necessary files, there's 4 of them, we will put them on our FTP site. Then basically all you have to do to update your license manager is go into the license manager, stop the service, download the new files, and I actually, because of some problems I've seen, I delete the ones that are there and then download the ones from our FTP site, replace the ones that are there, go right back into LM Tools and start the service. It's very simple. And in the meantime, we could also be generating a new license file. And at that point in time, before you start the license manager, after you've replaced the files, you simply go to the Config Services tab and point at the new version license file. Then when you start the service, you're up and running. You don't have to restart the service. You don't have to uninstall, reinstall. The one thing that I always recommend is the Revit seems to not always play nice if you sever the connection between the server and Revit. AutoCAD based products will always pick it up, but I always recommend that you get everybody out of Revit before you make the server switch over, and if there's not any trouble, the whole thing can seriously happen in 15 minutes.
Yeah, so, or, just do it over lunch when everyone's out at lunch, something like that. A little bit on the license file. You do need a new license file every year to get the new access to the new products. So you would just contact CAD-1, or you can contact Autodesk yourself, either way. And they can issue you a new license file. If you're on subscription, the license file will contain access to the current version. This year it's 2016 plus 3 previous versions, and that's done automatically. So if you got a 2016 license file today and you're on subscription, it would include access to 2016, 15, 14, and 13. And the reason we put the license manager files up on our FTP site, it is included with the download of the Autodesk software, and it is up on the Autodesk site. But we've got a nice document. We've got some nice steps put together on just taking care of all those little details that are a little bit unclear about how to install and that type of thing. Plus, so many servers today are, and this is a little bit IT speak, but they're IPv6 servers, and the license manager that comes with the download is an IPv4, so that can give some servers some issues. So we've got a nice document put together. Reach out to us, and we can definitely get that over to you.
And I'm going to ask one thing of our audience, and most of you people are very nice people, and we've had you for customers for a long time. But I'm going to say that one of the things that happens every year or every feature release or whatever is that, and Denny and Jennifer are on the front line here at CAD-1, they don't know anything about how this stuff works 1 second before you do. So they usually have to scramble when new stuff comes out to figure it out. And please be nice to them. Cussing at them won't get you answers any quicker. And I will tell you one, that Denny can out-cuss anybody.
It's true.
No, so just understand that we usually don't know what's going to happen any sooner, or how to deal with things any sooner than you will. So just be a little cooperative, because we really get overwhelmed when new stuff comes out.
We have another question asking about the license manager and how often it gets updated. And actually, the license manager only needs to be updated when the Autodesk portion. Okay, let me take a step back. Autodesk uses the license manager, but Autodesk doesn't write it. So the license manager is probably updated a whole lot more than you need to do it. You just need to do it once each new version as you implement a new version of AutoCAD. So if you've got the 2016 license manager, that's going to be fine until 2017 comes out.
Yeah, and he said, and will we be notified of updates, optional and required? So the only update you really have to worry about is when you're ready to update to a newer version of the software, and you just kind of, those two things tie together.
And generally speaking, when we submit the license file to you guys, we include the steps for updating the license manager and let you know. For instance, between 14 and 15, it was 100% required, or your 2015 product didn't work. 15 and 16, the 16 will work with the 2015 license manager, but it's always recommended that you update. And so that you receive a document when we supply the license file that implies this. So that's kind of when you would know that it's time to update your license manager. If it's done via email, the request, of course, you get it back in email. If you're talking to us on the phone, we let you know at that point also.
Another question before we move on to desktop licensing real quick here. Patrick asked, I have a standalone perpetual product design suite ultimate on subscription. Will it continue as long as I keep my subscription current?
Yes.
Yes.
That is correct, yes. Yeah, so as long as you maintain that maintenance subscription, you will be able to continue receiving upgrades every year when the new products come out, continue receiving updates throughout the year, continue your previous version access to the 3 previous, all of those good things, as long as you maintain that subscription.
And I don't know, Stan could probably talk to this perhaps or confirm it, but the whole suite realm is still down the road a bit. So even after January 31st of 2016, you will still be able to add perpetual suite licenses to your existing maintenance contract. So
yes, exactly. For probably another year after February 1st or January 31st of 2016, this upcoming January 31st, you'll still be able to add perpetual licenses of suites. At that point, Autodesk is indicating that all perpetual licenses will go away and everything will go to desktop seats.
okay, so that's a good lead into what is a desktop license. So in comparison, the perpetual license you own, the desktop license you rent. That's the quick and easy description of it. So basically all point products, so any product that is not a suite product is going to be discontinued as a perpetual license on January 31st of 2016.
For new purchases.
For new purchases. Once that happens, basically that means that if you need a new seat of AutoCAD or a new seat of Civil 3D, you can get those, but you're going to pay for the time that you use it rather than owning it. So the desktop licenses can be rented quarterly, annually. You could get a 2-year or a 3-year.
And there is monthly, although dealers currently are not able to sell the monthly. That has to be done directly through Autodesk. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of headaches with doing it monthly. So
And that's why I didn't say anything
Yeah.
about that. Monthly's not good.
no.
Okay, so then the other thing to let you know is if you do a multi-year contract, whether it's the 1 year or 2 year, or 3 year, there's actually no monetary break, but what you do get is locked into that cost for that license for that duration of time.
Yep.
Another thing, I don't know if many of you have let your subscription lapse in the past. You have 364 days to renew that subscription without losing that investment in that license. And that is all going to be shaken up like crazy because desktop licensing does not allow that. So if your desktop license, when your rental expires, it's done, the end, amen. If you need to get another license, if you need to, I should say, extend that license, you're actually having to do a new contract.
And a new serial number and all of that fun stuff.
Yes. And the desktop license has a kind of a unique way of the way it's set up. It's on subscription, so it's called a desktop subscription. And what has to happen is the contract manager has to go in and add whomever is going to be using that license has to be added to that contract as a user. Then that license has to be given to that user. So if you start a brand new, you get a new desktop subscription, and let's say that I'm the contract manager, but Jennifer's going to be using it. When that contract gets set up, it's a single seat. By default, I am given that access to that seat. So I'll have to go into my Autodesk account, and I'm going to just switch over and just show you very quickly. This is the Autodesk account. We would go into the user section, and then I would have to add my user here. As you can see, we have a lot of users. And then once that user is in, then what we would have to do, I'd have to go in and remove my access to that user, or excuse me, to that contract. So notice, let me scroll down here a little bit. These are the contracts right now that are assigned to my user. So let's say that one of these aren't desktop subscriptions, so I can't show you exactly. But basically, I'd have to go into the contract by choosing the edit access, and I'd have to remove my access to a particular asset. Let's say it was the Autodesk 360. I'd have to unassign it to myself, save that, go in, set up a user for Jennifer, and then I'd have to go in and edit the access and give her access to that license on that contract number. So it's not just a very quick and simple. Now, an additional to that would be that once I have set up that user for Jennifer, she will receive an email from Autodesk. She actually has to go and finish the setup of that user before she'll be able to log in and use that desktop rental, that desktop subscription.
Just like with any website you sign up on, you have to go in and create a password and fill in, your name and that type of thing. Same thing with any other website that you would be signing up for in today's age.
And I will say about the desktop subscription, there's right now, as of right now, that they're only basically standalone or one user licenses.
Oh, good point.
There are very few, if any, and I can't remember right off, but there are very few just one-off products like AutoCAD or Revit Architecture or Civil 3D by themselves that are desktop. Most of the desktop rentals right now are in the suites and standalone. Now, come the first of the year or sometime thereabouts, we're told that there will be a network version of the desktop. The individual products will be available in, I'm going to assume, but I don't know for sure, standalone and network version, as well as the suites will be available for rental. And we're hoping, one of the other things that's a big issue for a couple of our customers, they have 5 or 6 desktop rentals. They're a startup firm doing a nice job trying to manage their cash flow. They got, I think it was I think it was as many as 8 contracts on 3-month recurring basis. They are occupied almost constantly trying to keep up with their licenses, because as of right now, there's no way to prorate those licenses to an existing contract or anything like that. So it gets to be a bit of a circus kind of keeping up with that. We're told that that's going to go away. We're hoping it will by next year, but those are some things to think of. Now, the other side of the desktop licenses that I really like, and I think that there are some good advantages for customers as well. Let's say you want to do something and you want to manage projects better, so you can rent software for a term that closely matches your project, so you can build to the project rather than having seats sitting there that you're not using. Or maybe you're bringing in some interns or other temporary employee situations or something like that. By being able to rent the software, that offers some big advantages. So I think you'll be able to really manage your costs and your budgets around CAD software in larger firms and smaller coming up here, but you'll have to be on top of the desktop and the perpetual together and what you own.
All right, activating licenses. I mean, thank you, Stan. Now, let's move into activating licenses. So we've talked a little bit about it on both the standalone, well, actually on all the stances. We've talked about activating the licenses. I guess I don't know if there's anything else to add on that. Do you have anything, Jennifer?
There are a couple of things primarily dealing with the desktop licenses when it comes to activation. There's a hot fix out for if you're activating a 2014 or 2015 version of the desktop licenses, that you need to install the hot fix before it'll allow you to activate the software in some instances. And then the other thing, like we were talking about with adding users for the desktop subscription, if you are not the user assigned to the software, it will prompt you to log in to with your Autodesk ID when you go to activate the software. If you're not the user assigned to the software for a desktop subscription, it'll tell you to contact your contract manager, your administrator, that type of thing, because it won't allow you to activate it unless you're the proper user for that software. So that's mainly something to keep in mind, keep a note of whenever you're looking at desktop subscriptions and activation. So it does require a little bit of a ahead of time preparation by the contract manager, more so than the perpetual licenses did before. But that's the main thing with the activations, and then just keep in mind you have 2 before you're going to have to contact Autodesk for an activation code. So
Denny or Jennifer, what is the previous version rights for desktop?
Oh.
They're a little different than for perpetual licenses.
They are.
Well, they're similar now. Basically, I think Jennifer talked to Autodesk about this specifically for the desktop licenses.
So for annual and multi-year desktop licenses, it's the same as it was for perpetual licenses. You get the 3 previous versions access. Now, with perpetual or desktop, either one, you have to request access to the previous version. So it's not something they automatically just give you whenever you purchase the software. You have to request which versions you need. With the quarterly and monthly rentals, you're only allowed access to 2 previous versions. So if, for example, 2016 is out right now, you would have access to 2015 and 2014, but not 13 for a quarterly or a monthly rental. So that's the one main difference. Annual, multi-year, you don't have to worry about it. It's the same standard 3 versions back. For quarterly and monthly, it's just 2 versions back.
And I think
go ahead, Jenny.
While we're talking about the previous versions, and that was very, it's prevalent, and thank you, Stan, for bringing that up. When your subscription grants you use to the current version and 3 previous versions. No subscription, no previous versions.
Right.
That's basically it. Now, also there are certain applications, Revit being the big one, that are not backward compatible at all in any way. Which means if you've got a project running on an older version, let's say 12, which is the one that's coming up right now the most, then what do? Well, the way that Autodesk's previous version goes is if that version was on subscription at that time, so when 2012 was around, if your product was on subscription at that time, subscription has been continuously maintained, then they will grant you, we can still get a license for that old version. The caveat is it's the number of seats. Now, this is going to be a problem at some point because we can't request a 2012 serial number at this point. We can only request 15, 14, and 13. If you were to purchase a new seat of software, we can only get 15, 14, or 13. So keep that in mind. And I say this moving forward because next year 17 comes out means 13 is going to fall off. We need to get a 2013 serial number on your account before it's past that 3 previous back, or we will not be able to activate it once 2017 comes out. Also, when a product has been upgraded, so that's basically how it's earmarked on the Autodesk side of things, we cannot,
Even though you can't upgrade anymore.
that serial number,
As long as you're on subscription, you're
Yeah.
upgraded.
so that serial number, and let's talk with current versions. Let's say you have a pool of AutoCAD licenses and you add a new 2016 license, but you're still using 2014. That 2014 license that was on subscription has been upgraded. That means we can request a new version, a new serial number that will have the full seat of what you have in 16. So you had 5, now you have 6. You only have 5 2014 licenses. We can request that 2016 be added so that you get 6, but they can't add it to that serial number, so they're going to generate a new serial number for that. Now, in the network realm, that is not as critical as it is in the standalone realm and license compliance. Once that serial number changes, every single installed license you have is now not compliant from an installation side of things because it's got the wrong serial number. So that's one thing that we need to kind of, as a team, just kind of keep in mind. Yes, we can get your previous version allowed on subscription to equal the seat count of your current version, but after that, if it's standalone, we have to go back to each installed workstation and update that serial number for the products that you're using.
And a couple things I want to add, since we're talking about desktop subscription, there's something I want to add there, and then Denny mentioned license compliance, and I'd like to bring something up around that. So real quick, with desktop subscription, please, please, please do not wait until the last day of your subscription to go, oh golly, we got to renew this. It will go dead on you at midnight, and you will come in the next morning, usually with a project due by that afternoon, and not be able to do one darn thing. So please, we're working on a recurring payment system here so that we can do that, but the responsibility is yours. So please don't let them, get on it 10 days, 15 days ahead of time. And with what Denny and Jennifer have been telling you about how you need to reassign the user, if you're the contract manager, you want to keep track of those licenses. You don't want, the young person over in the design department, and you don't want to forget about their license being on subscription because they'll come in and their software won't work. So, there's some real management issues around this. The other thing I want to bring up, because there's been a rash of them lately with our customers, and we've had to straighten some things out, but customers have to pay for this stuff. If you have old seats of something on your computer, maybe somebody came in and put in a trial version or a not for resale version of some old software just to try it out for a while, or maybe you had a vendor come in that, their third-party product, they installed some software on your systems to run that third-party product, and now you're not doing that anymore and they forgot about it, or an intern came in and downloaded something and installed it, and nobody really knew about it. We have seen a lot of our customers get dinged for stuff they didn't even know was on their system. So periodically, do a check on your system and see if there's any old junk that you don't know is there. And again, we can help you with that through our SAM program if you like.
Thanks.
Sorry, that go on a little bit, but I hate to see people get dinged on LC issues, especially when they don't know they had the stuff on their machine.
Whoopsie.
One thing I wanted to mention too, because we talked about the desktop subscription, the perpetual licenses, and hopefully you have a good understanding of that. And you will often see referred to on the Autodesk site cloud licenses or cloud software. Now right now that's things like in the AEC realm anyway, which is what we work with. That is things like InfoWorks 360, Recap 360. Some of these products that primarily reside on the Amazon servers, and they reside there because they're pretty computing intensive, so you access them through the cloud. But keep in mind that the actual licensing of them works the same way as the desktop license. It's a term license for like InfoWorks 360 for let's say a year, and so it's what Denny and Jennifer have told you about, how you access those and how they work is basically the same as that.
Patrick had a question. What do you mean by dinged when we're talking about license compliance?
Dinged, nicked.
You get a bad mark
Shamoozed.
and they'll fine you.
Yeah, it means license compliance. Come by your office, see how many licenses you have. If you are out of compliance, they will issue you a fine.
They don't actually come by your office, but they do contact you by letter. And then once that's done, you're supposed to change nothing. And that means you're about to be audited. So,
Yeah.
and that's the big thing. I don't like the way that they changed the serial number, because that immediately puts you out of compliance.
Yep.
I believe, I would never trust it, but I believe that they may waive that if that serial number is still active on your contract. But the point of the matter is that license compliance is what it is.
It's serious, yeah.
Yeah, we can't avoid it. And it's not just about using more licenses than you own. It's about having them installed. There's some crazy situations that we could tell you about that happen, and I just sit back dumbfounded thinking that this is crazy. So I'm very adamant when I'm talking to people about the license compliance, and especially since we're a SAM partner, it's very important that we help you stay compliant. So
Right.
If you ever have any questions at all about compliancy, call, because we'd much rather help you be compliant than, let you take your chance and get dinged, if you will, by Autodesk.
And we just keep in mind, if you get a LC letter, we can't help you after that. So the best time to do a SAM engagement, a software asset management engagement with us, is
Before
that happens. Right now, just have us check it out.
And
we
the
can't help you afterwards.
LC letter is a license compliance letter from Autodesk.
And that being said, we will definitely help you understand what they're saying. We will help you, understand the process. But,
We will
other
even
than
help you
being a
negotiate.
sympathetic shoulder to cry on,
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot more we can do once the compliance process has started. But if you contact us before, there's a lot of benefits to doing a SAM engagement, such as a hold on any audits that may be coming down the line towards you for,
Right.
90 days?
90 days.
Then you have a letter that after the SAM engagement is done stating, we did this on this day and everything checked out. So there are definitely a lot of benefits there.
Yep.
Patrick had another question come in. He asked, so can I have 2014, 2015, and 2016 installed on my one laptop?
Yes, if it's on subscription.
Yes.
If it's not on subscription, then technically you only have the current version, which is 2016. Maintain your subscription, you can have those 3 versions, no problem.
So I like to explain it in the terms of a car. Like, so every year you take your car back into the dealership and you turn in your old car and you get a brand new one. As long as you maintain your subscription, the dealership allows you to keep using your old car as well as the brand new car. But if you drop off of subscription, you don't get to keep that old car anymore. You only get to keep the new car.
Yep.
I don't know. It makes sense to me, but that's
my auto place doesn't do that.
Well, it's an interesting analogy, though.
It is very.
It's like being married to the dealer or something
Yeah.
like that.
Sleeping with the enemy.
So, but we're definitely open for questions. If anyone has any questions about licensing, about how Autodesk is doing things, any of those, if you have any questions, we are here for the next few minutes. That's pretty much about all we had for licensing topics, unless, Dan, you had anything else to throw into the mix?
If we're ready to close, all I can say is, sum it up this way. Stay on subscription, heck of a lot cheaper. Don't wait till the last minute. Give it a couple weeks. Don't let things fall off. Lord loves a working man, and if you catch something, see a doctor and get rid of it. So that's about it for me.
I wanted to also mention, if you're going to get your license files yourself, if you have a point product, which would be like AutoCAD or Civil 3D, and you have a suite product, such as the Building Design Suite or the Infrastructure Design Suite, all the licenses have to be generated on the same day in a network realm for them to work. Another thing that has come up is in the network licensing realm, so in the standalone, such as Patrick asked, you have a standalone seat, you have 14, 15, and 16, all on the laptop, all of them will work. You can open all 3 of them at the same time. Network licensing does not work that same way. If you were to open those same 3 versions using network licensing, that user will consume 3 licenses out of that pool. So just a couple of things just to keep in mind. And I don't know, Stan said something that kind of jiggled it in my mind, but he had mentioned the desktop subscription that might be coming. We don't know exactly how the licensing is going to work, but I'm confident that it's going to work similar. They're going to use the same technology they're using now. We're just going to have 2 different licenses in your license file. You're going to have one that times out and one that doesn't, the desktop versus the perpetual. So I'm not too worried about it.
We did have a couple more questions come in here. Ron asks, what is the SAM cost? And on that same topic, John asked, what was that called, the SAM engagement? So SAM stands for Software Asset Management, and it is a SAM engagement you can do with CAD-1. As far as the cost, I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe Stan.
We kind of go by your seat count. Usually they start at about $500 for a smaller firm, but we're a pretty nice bunch here. We'll usually try and check things out for as best a deal as we can. If you have a larger firm, it might be $1,000, $1,200. We have to come out or work with you to install some software that kind of goes through every computer and sees what's there and what might be hidden away and so forth and so on. And then we have to process the report that comes back. The report does go to Autodesk. They process it. It does not go to their license compliance. At least that's what we're told. They just do an analysis on it, and then they send it back to us with recommendations or an all clear certificate or whatever it may be.
And like I said, the minute you start a SAM engagement, you get a
90 days of protection.
90 days of protection. So if you are concerned, it is nice to go ahead and do a SAM engagement, because you get that 90 days to get things worked out and get things straightened out. So,
and that's not just Autodesk products. Good management structure for a company anymore is do it with all your multi-seat products. It's just good business.
Lisa asked, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. I used to have a friend who spelled it that way, and her name was Lise. So whichever way you pronounce that. The question was that you have a subscription renewal in August, and can you go to a desktop subscription? It's a little bit different. If you let your subscription lapse in August, which you are fine to do, then you don't really need to do a desktop subscription until the next version comes out. Because you have 2016, it's a perpetual license, you own that. It's not going to necessarily be a transition from perpetual to desktop. Perpetual you own, you'll always own. And as long as you maintain that subscription, they'll continue to go. If you would rather let that go and do a desktop subscription, then that would be the time to do it, I would think.
Yeah, that's a complex question, because if you let your maintenance subscription lapse in August, and you then have 364 days to get back on that maintenance subscription and maintain your software the way it was. If you go to the 365th day or after that, the only way you'll be able to get a product back is by going to desktop subscription. That's the only way you'll be able to do it from then on out. Now, I don't know why anyone who has there's great reasons to add desktop subscription if you have a lot of perpetual licenses in-house and you want to add desktop subscriptions for cost management issues or whatever that we discussed earlier. But here's the thing. Let's take Building Design Suite or Infrastructure Design Suite Premium. Most common products we sell anymore, aside from AutoCAD. The maintenance subscription on both of those is roughly $1,000 a year. If you went and rented those for a year, it's going to be roughly $3,000 to $3,500 for a year's rental of that. So you're much better off staying on your maintenance subscription than renting it. Now, perhaps there's other business reasons you want to do that, but in general, stay on your maintenance subscription.
I agree.
I concur.
All
We all
righty.
concur.
We
I just also want to point out, because I've had this question arise, that Stan said that if you let your maintenance subscription lapse, you have 364 days to get it back on subscription. That doesn't allow you to skip a year. And what I have happened a lot is people will renew their subscription, but then it expires in 2 days again. So when you are renewing that late subscription, you actually are paying for the year that you didn't have it on subscription, and then you would probably need to put it on subscription again to keep it on subscription to get the new release.
again, just maintain your subscription. It gets wildly complicated.
It is crazy, silly crazy.
All righty.
All right.
Any other questions?
Last call. All right, well, we appreciate everyone tuning in today. We are recording this, and we'll probably put at least some portion of it up on our website. Or not on our website, as Denny mentioned
Actually, yes.
yesterday. It'll be on YouTube, and there will be a link from our website to our YouTube channel where you can view it there. So there will be that available later on. And then if anything else comes up, you are welcome to reach out to us. Our information is on the screen, info@CAD-1.com. 303-427-2231. We are here to answer any questions you may have. So we appreciate you tuning in, and thank you very much. We will see you again soon.
And Jennifer and Denny, thank you very much for putting this together. You have busy lives, and it takes something to put these together. Thank you. All right, folks,
Thanks,
bye
Stan.
now.
Bye.